Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in again. I just wanted to make a quick video of my experience so far, like my first 4 months of flying kites and what I've experienced with quite a few different kites. I've laid out basically all of my kite gear so far. Pretty sure I have everything here. There's one little kite that I've got it's like a $10 on sale kite that I had from Hobby Lobby. I think it was featured in one of my videos where I got it stuck in a tree, but I don't have that one out here. It's like a single line diamond type kite. It's not out here, but I've got everything out here. I wanted to step through like my progression in kiting, what I learned to make kiting more enjoyable, and you know, what I actually experienced versus what I thought I was getting into with each kite. Little tips that I've come up with to make my personal kiting experience more enjoyable. The first kite that I got that was a dual line kite was I ordered it first, was the Osprey. I actually ordered two of these, and I sold one of them to an enthusiastic person that wanted to get into kiting when they saw me flying a kite. This retails about a $53 kite, and the specs on it say it can fly between 5 and 18 mile per hour wind. It's ripstop nylon. Comes with 100-pound test polyester line. It's actually a very enjoyable kite, the Osprey from Premier. It's a very enjoyable kite for a new person to learn to fly a two-line kite. I meet a lot of people who don't understand the principles of flying two-line kites. They just don't understand how it's possible. So maybe on this video I can address into some of the elementary aspects of flying a two-line kite to help you get started in kiting on an enjoyable level. It's kind of like fishing or golfing. Like with golf, you have a number of different irons for different situations to hit the ball. And with fishing, you have different lures and different lines and for different situations. The same is true with kiting. You'll have kites for higher wind, lower wind. You'll have kites that are designed for a specific purpose, specific goal. Like this kite way back here is designed for speed. It's called the Whiz from HQ. That's my latest kite. And this kite here would be a beginner's kite, something that's durable, fairly difficult to break. It won't fly in really light wind, like almost no wind, but it's also not crazy fragile. So that's the plus of this one. It's a pretty fast kite. The Osprey is pretty fast, and it's enjoyable. So like on a speed level, if I want to fly a kite that's fairly fast but fairly predictable, I would get the Osprey. Whereas this one is known for being really, really fast, but it's very difficult to fly. It needs at least 8 miles an hour of wind. I think they say 7, but I would recommend 8 to 10. And then you have to have some really good experience and skill level for the Whiz. Now, I did not get this kite first, the dual line kite. I had crashed and lost 2 other single line kites. One of them was a single line Delta kite, one of those mermaid kites from Premier. I lost it because I couldn't control it in high wind. And then the first kite I lost was I forgot the brand, but it was another Delta kite. It had a tail, had streamers, nice looking kite. But then again, the single line Delta kite, I could not control it in high wind. Crashed it, lost it, got stuck in the bottom of the lake. So that's what put me on the search for controllable kites. And I learned about quad kites, and then I learned about these dual line kites. They call them dualies, sport kites. Then in the more advanced sport kites, you have stunt kites. So I couldn't wait for the Ospreys to come in. I had ordered them and I was waiting for them to come in, and I had a few days that I could be flying kites. So I got back from some work I was doing, and I went to a bigger local hobby store here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and they had quite a few prism kites and accessories like tails. and I got the neutrino. I was thinking, oh, I saw the stacked neutrinos. I thought that would be really cool. I should get a neutrino because I could get more and stack them, which I might do, you know, down the road. But I went to the wrong place to try to fly the neutrino for the first time, and I was in a low spot. My wind was blocked by trees, and even though the forecast said we had 5 miles an hour, we didn't have 5 miles an hour down in this low spot on a softball field. And I got bit by black gnats, or biting flies. So that really gave me a bad first impression of kiting. Very frustrated, very pissed off, and so now I, you know, based on that experience, I would never go back to that location. I would go to a higher location, or I'd go to a beach, go someplace where there's a steady wind coming across a body of water before it reaches you, or be up on a high zone, an elevated place where there's very little terrain, buildings or trees to block the wind. So I got the neutrino, and after a few hours of being extremely frustrated trying to fly the neutrino, my very first experience with a 2-line kite, I took it back to the same store, and they let me exchange it for the Nexus. And then I wanted to see if the Nexus would fly better. It's a bigger kite, a much easier kite to fly than the neutrino for the first time. And I got the Nexus, brought it right back to the same exact location because I wanted to see how it would fly in almost the same exact conditions as what I was trying to fly the neutrino. And it was a better experience. It wasn't great, but it was better. So then I found another location to take it where there was better wind, and I had a better experience. And then I thought, man, I got to find a better location to fly these kites. So I found a beach, and I found a couple of beaches. They were really, really close to each other on the same lake. And I met a lady. She says, well, all the kite surfers, they go over there to this beach that's just a few hundred yards right up here on, you know, and I hadn't been to that beach. So I went there, and sure enough, I had a better experience. It wasn't great, but I had a much better experience. Things just got better and better and better. So one of the goals I have with this video is to help you have a great experience if you get into kiting, if you want to try it. It's very relaxing. It's something you can do very inexpensively compared to other hobbies or sports. And you'll just meet so many people out kiting that just are fascinated by the kites. They'll have all kinds of questions. People approach me on a daily basis and like, oh, well, you can't fly a kite in this weather. Well, there's different kites for different situations, and the vast majority of the public doesn't have any experience flying kites. I mean, maybe they have a single line kite memory from a kid and something they made at home, and that's about it, you know, and they assume that you got to have tons of wind to fly a kite. Well, some kites are designed to fly in high wind, and some kites are designed to fly in no wind. Like, they actually fly kites indoors. It's choreographed to music. They put on shows. So the kiting world is huge. So I had a good experience with the Nexus, and then about that time my Ospreys finally came in, and so these are my first 2 kites that I learned on, was the Nexus and the Osprey. And I was flying on a beach with wind coming across the water, very steady, like in the early evening, just before sundown. And the wind was great. It was just so nice, you know, to fly in nice steady wind. So I got quite a bit of experience. I started, you know, honing my skills of controlling the kite and just basic maneuvers that most people can't do, you know, like the first time they try to fly the kite. They're overwhelmed. So though you need like a moderate wind, a very steady wind, and some easier to fly kites to get started in kiting. So I ended up going back and getting the same exact neutrino that I had returned once I realized that, you know, location makes a big difference, the steadiness of the wind makes a big difference, the speed of the wind makes a big difference. And I thought, you know, now that I know how to fly a kite in a basic sense, keep it in the air, enjoy it, have fun for hours with the Nexus and the Osprey, then I went back and got the neutrino. And then I had a blast. I had a blast with the neutrino. I still have a blast with the neutrino. I've flown it in choppy wind, high wind, gusty wind, I've tried to fly it in, turbulent wind. It does not like turbulent wind or inadequate. It needs steady wind. The neutrino really needs steady wind, unobstructed, no turbulence. But I've flown it in some really high wind. I've actually broken the lines flying the neutrino, which it comes with 50-pound lines. These right here, 75-foot 50s, and it comes with a nice little yellow ribbon tail. But I've actually flown it in choppy high wind and broken the lines, 50-pound lines on the neutrino, and the thing is only like 34 inches wide. It's a rinky-dink kite. But it's a lot of fun. It'll really hone your skills for controlling the kite, because it'll develop your feel for the pull on the lines. And then I wanted a kite that would fly in ultralight wind. So I ordered an ultralight kite. And ultralight kite does not mean it flies in ultralight wind. If you want a kite that flies in ultralight wind, then you need to get a super light kite. And I got the Prism 4D, which is a super light kite, and it's designed to fly in ultra light wind. Or super. See, these terms in the industry are very non-user friendly for a newbie. So one of the goals of this video is to help a new person get into kiting without all the frustrations that I've experienced. This kite says it flies in 0 wind, the 4D, and up to 15. I would not fly it in 15. I would not fly it in more than about 8. I've broken this kite, flying it in like 8 to 10 mile an hour wind, and I actually have some medical tape to reinforce the connections. I just tear off a little bit. It's crazy sticky, and it doesn't become gooey in the sun. So this is a tip. Some medical fabric tape is handy to tape your fittings to make them a little tighter. And I added some nylon spacers at some shear points where it has a tendency to break if a strong gust hits it. So the reason this one's still partially assembled is because I got super glue in the wrong spot. So it feels a little loose right now. Maybe I'll get that apart. So what was the next step? Well, I wanted another kite that was in the super light category. So this kite I got as a blemish. Normally it's like 140, and I got it for around 100 from a great kite shop in San Diego called the Kite Country. Super dude there named Vic. He's been selling kites for 60 years from India. A great guy, came to the United States in 1964. So I got this from Vic in Kite Country. The service was phenomenal. And I really enjoyed this kite. It's a fast kite. So this is like what I would consider to be like a large version of the neutrino. It's way more stable, easier to fly than the neutrino, but this would be like similar to the neutrino in how edgy it is. And then I wanted a little bit nicer kite, and this is like the second most expensive kite that Prism makes, and it's called the Aether. It flies supposedly at 1 mile an hour up to about 12. It's about twice as big as the 4D. The first time I flew it, it was a little bit too much wind for it, and I broke 50-pound lines flying the Aether for the first time. Thank God I just kind of let go of it, because it started spinning like crazy once one of the lines broke, and I didn't want to damage my brand new kite. It was the very first time I had flown it, so I just kind of let it go and let it get to the ground without spinning crazy and breaking a wingtip or something. So I personally, unless the wind is just ridiculously light, I would not fly the Aether on 50-pound lines. I would fly it on, at a minimum, 75 or 100, and I've flown it very comfortably on 150s, which I bought the 150s for the Whiz to be flown on lower wind days, like say 8 to 10, but they actually recommend 350s for the Whiz. So these are 115-foot, 352-pound rated Dyneema. That's for the Whiz. And then I got the neoprene straps for the super high-speed kite, because it really pulls on your hands. The kite pulls so hard you can easily pull it either hurt your wrists with the narrow straps, just the force could just pull it right out of your hand. So you really need the grip of the neoprene straps. I got those from HQ Kites in North Carolina. These are 120 foot, 150 pound Laser Pro Gold lines. I got these from the Kite Connection in Auburn, California. The service there was very good, and the shipping was very prompt. I got 3 line sets from the Kite Connection. I got 50 pound 50s, Dyneema Laser Pro Gold, and these are 50 pound 120s. I wanted some 120s for the 4D because it's just a very graceful kite. If you get it up high on a moderate, like a 5 mile an hour wind day, 6 miles an hour, somewhere in there, it's a lot of fun to fly, especially at sunset. Very beautiful, and so I enjoy flying the 4D on 120 foot, 50 pound, and I enjoy flying the HQ Whiz at about 8 to 10 miles an hour on the 150 pound, 120 feet lines. These lines are ridiculously heavy for the Whiz. 150, 160 pound lines would be really cool for the Whiz. So I wanted to take the moment just to show you a few of the tails that I've acquired. You know, to make your kiting more enjoyable, you might want to get a sun hat. If it's cooler and sunny, it's nice. It's a little bit too hot when there's not a lot of wind blowing, so I don't really wear this. I just rather use sunscreen or something. But some of the first tails I got was at the local hobby store, and they're from Prism. One of them is a Spectrum tube tail. So this is only 20 feet, but it comes with like a spinner, so it doesn't get twisted, which is kind of cool. And then I got, so these are 20 feet, all this is multicolored, like all different colors. Kind of matches the Spectrum color of the kite. And there's a product card for the Nexus. Flies between 4 and 22, 64 inches wide, and it came with 65 feet of 90 pound Dyneema. So those lines are right here. Well, it says 100 pound, 65 foot. Anyway, close enough. And I got the indigo 20 foot ribbons, green and yellow. Those go pretty good with the Osprey. And this Prism tails come with a nice bag, so you can keep everything rounded up. Got some more. Oh, they're wrapped on here. So this is one of the ways that Prism recommends you wrap your ribbons. I put the ribbons on first, and then I put my kite line on last. That way, if I'm just going to fly the kite, I just have access to the kite line. And then if I want to put ribbons on, they're underneath the kite line. Wrapping up lines is a bit of a learning curve if you haven't done it before. Some people just wrap them end over end like that, and some people say that twists the line. I do an X pattern myself, which seems to work great for me. I don't have an issue with that. I did put a ribbon on my stakes. I just get these stakes at Harbor Freight, and they come like very cheap, like half a dozen of them for like $5 or $6. Got the fluorescent green tops, and I put some ribbon on them, and then once I've got the straps in my hand, I just pull the stake out of the ground and lay it on the ground so people can't trip over it, or you don't trip over it if you're flying the kite. That seems to work great. They're easy to find because of the color. Putting these kites together, this neutrino is pretty easy to put together. The Osprey is ridiculously easy, and that's probably the kite that I would like to start with, is the Osprey, because out of all the kites you could get, like if you just want to get your toe in the water in kiting, I recommend the Osprey because of the price point, because of the durability, the ease of flying, and how much fun it is for the money. How much fun it is. compared to all these kites. $53, you have a ton of fun. You probably won't become frustrated. You could start a kid with it. Just trying to see here what they say in terms of recommended age. What do they say? It doesn't say here. Oh, 5+. Yeah, 5+. So some of these kites, like this one, says 16+. So that's a huge difference in physical ability, mental ability, between a kite that's rated for somebody that's 5 years old and up and somebody who's 16 years old and up. So I'm 54 and I've been flying kites, as you can see, for like 4 months, very regular. And this kite is very difficult for me to fly. I would not start on that kite, even though you might think it's fun. A kid might look at that and say, oh, that's the one I want. No, 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 no. You need to start very elementary. So I would start with the osprey, quite frankly. We'll start with the osprey, you know, get your toe in the water. This is the upper spreader, fiberglass rod. It goes in these boots right here. You push them in firmly and make sure you don't accidentally slip and shove the rod through the sail. And this is already attached. You want to make sure the bridle is out here, not twisted around the spreaders. If you raise this up to this other boot, there's an O-ring that keeps these in place, keeps this one in place. This is similar to the upper spreader on the Aether. It has an O-ring that keeps its upper spreader in place. But you put this in the boot. I would hold this rod close to the boot and then shove that in there all the way. That's a mistake you can make on the Whiz, is not shoving the lower spreaders all the way into the boot on the leading edge. This is called the leading edge, this rod here. It's common terminology in the kite industry. Leading edge, these are called spreaders. Right here, I'm shoving this all the way in the boot firmly. And then this only has one standoff. These are called standoffs. Some people call them whiskers, but that's a standoff right there. And then you can see how the bridle is routed properly. Nothing's twisted around any of the frame. This comes off the bottom here underneath it. Oh, this needs to be shoved in between there. Now that's centered. And then you see there's like a rub patch there. Keep the sail from being rub the hole in by the spreader. And then this goes in here. And there's no real bridle adjustment pre-designed here with the Osprey. So there's nothing really there to understand. I guess you could adjust it, but looks like there might be a prusik knot right there, but it doesn't look like it's really intended to, well, maybe. Yeah, if you pull that apart, it looks like you could slide this prusik knot up to bring the nose forward, which would increase lift, or you could slide it down, which would let the nose drop back to decrease lift for stronger winds. But this is the way it came set from the factory. I'm not going to mess with it, but I just noticed that if you want to lock the prusik, you pull both lines together and just pull this knot here until it gets tight, and that'll lock your prusik knot. Okay, so that's the way that one's set up. The other kites are similar in setup, but not all of them are identical. So these are just some basics. I'll set this one over here. Is the neutrino. I probably should show you the Nexus first, because that's the next kite I would recommend for beginners. The Nexus. It's a little bit different than the Osprey. I've already got some ribbons that I found. Somebody left a really inexpensive kids kite on the beach, and they had these ribbons on it, so I thought they would be a nice accent. The tips of my Nexus. The Prism has these little Velcro slips. So take it off before you fly it, of course. Okay, yeah. So these little pieces will fall off the ground. Make sure you don't step on them. We have our upper spreader. We have our two lower spreaders. And then these have expanding wingtips. So we have one standoff on each side. And we have, these are shock corded. So basically stretch the shock cords until you can get the expanding wingtip in place. Do the same on the other side. Like that. Boom. There. Make sure it's seated fully all the way into the furl. I'm stepping on my ribbon. So, you grab your upper spreader and make sure your lines are above the spreader. Put those in the boot like that. Like this. And now we open up our. At this point, it'd be good to like hold your bridle out just to make sure you see how it's supposed to be routed before you put any more pieces in place. And then these are clearly marked with some silver tape. That goes toward the inside, right here. And this goes, make sure your bridle's on top of the boot, above it. Get that in. Make sure you don't shove the rod through the sail. And then this one cracked on me already, so I got some medical tape on it just to keep it from getting worse. I am not sure how that happened, and I don't know what those standoffs are made out of. I have no idea. If I was guessing, I would say they're plastic, but I'm not going to know. So there's properly routed bridle. This silver part to the inside. This is where you could, have a shear break. That's where the these points right here is where the 4D was breaking. So I added a nylon spacer over the center T to give a little bit of an extension onto the spreader to prevent a shear break right there. It doesn't add hardly any weight, but it does significantly reinforce that point of stress where on the 4D you get a shear break on the lower spreader if you fly it in more than 8 mile wind, or a little bit of gusty wind. So there we go. This one has a pre-built-in loop to attach a tail, and you can add those type things with. I would just use like some elastic like strap, or like the ponytail type bungee that people put in their hair. You can put one of those on the spine shaft of kites back here. You can add one, so you can add tails or whatever to a kite, possibly. I noticed that the Whiz does not fly very good at all when I try to put tails on it, so I learned that the hard way. So there's beginner kite number 2, the Nexus, and it has more obvious bridle adjustment points here. So there's your prusik knot. These are your maximum